Hi, this is Andy from MacGyver's Garden, and today we're going to actually show you about 4 different ways of planting your seedlings under the seed starter that we built last week. First off, seedlings need about 4 to 5 different things to really grow and grow right. Obviously, you need a good quality seed to start with. If you buy any of them on sale, make sure you check the date code on the back and make sure it's not last year's seed. Secondly, you need a good quality potting soil. Don't be tempted to take the garden soil from your garden. There are 2 problems with that. Number 1, it packs down too easily when put in pots. Secondly, your garden soil is full of microorganisms. Some are good, some are bad. In the garden, the good are favored. But in an indoor environment, the bad ones can tend to take over. And all it takes is one bad one, like a disease called damping off, and it can wipe out your whole seed, a full tray overnight. So what you're going to want is something like this. This is a peat moss-based potting soil. It's actually sterile. It's got little flecks of perlite in it. Some have vermiculite in it. The best ones for what we're doing are actually called seedling mix. And Black Gold sells a real good one. Also Sunshine Mix has a good seedling mix, but they're a little hard to get hold of. Sometimes you can get hold of them through a nursery. I know I've been able to get them through Walmart and through Ace Hardware if I order them online. I did find a reasonable substitute for it though, and that's readily available, and that's Miracle-Gro's Moisture Control Mix. That one seems to work pretty well, where some of the other Miracle-Gros tend to pack down a little too much. Okay, we're going to show you a couple different ways. One way is with this little funny looking little disc. This is called a Jiffy 7 pellet. It's actually compressed peat moss. When you put it in water, like we're going to do here, and just let it absorb, it'll actually swell until it's about that size. Okay, they're very simple. They work very well. The only hang-up is they've got a netting around them. They say that you can grow your plant in this and plant it netting and all, but I've found that if I do that, my roots are cramped a little bit. Only half of them will make it out of it. So what you want to do if you use Jiffy 7 is after your plant has sprouted and is big enough to transplant out, you're going to want to tear that netting off and throw it away. And that'll give your plants a much better root start. Okay, a second inexpensive method is just little Dixie cups. The one thing you'd have to do with Dixie cups though is you gotta make some drainage holes in it. And I suggest just taking a stack of about 4 or 5 of them and taking a good knife and making an X in the bottom like that. And that works fine. And then just fill them with a damp potting mix or a wet potting mix. The same's true with these packs. You can get them as the larger ones like this, or you can get them as the 6 pony pack. Those work very well also. The biggest problem people have is that sometimes they plant them too deeply. What I suggest doing is, whatever you're planting, like this is a nasturtium, it's about the size of a pea, you only want to plant it about double the depth of the seed. So for planting these 4, I would just take a pencil with an eraser, just push it down in just about double the depth of the seed, drop the seed in, and then just lightly cover it up. No big mystery to it. Now, for smaller seeds, like these are alyssum seeds, and they're very tiny. And you'll usually have several hundred of them in a pack. What I suggest doing with those is just take a pinch and just sprinkle them into the hole. And you don't want your hole very deep. In fact, we're just going to, some of your really tiny seeds, like pansies, actually need sunlight to germinate. So if you're not sure whether they need sunlight or not, just cover up half of them and just barely cover them up. The rest you're just going to push down. and then keep notes as far as which side did better, which side germinated better. Okay. One other method is making soil blocks, and you can take this same mix. You can dampen it and put it in a large container like a wheelbarrow, and you can take, this is called a soil blocker, and it works very, very well. I like them very much because you don't have anything to throw away when you go to plant your plants. All you're paying for is the soil blocker itself as a first investment, and then the potting mix. The one problem with the soil blocker is it is rather expensive. It's like $33. However, I've been using this one for about 35 years, so that comes out to less than $1 per year. Also, there's no netting to throw away, there's no cup to throw away, and there's no plastic piece to try and either throw away or save. But again, if you're just starting out, I'd go with one of these other methods like the Dixie Cups or the Jiffy 7s. Okay, you notice how this one we put in the water just a minute ago is swelled up to about triple its size. It's going to keep going just a little bit. Anyway, as far as planting, that's pretty much it. However, your seeds also need water, heat, and light. Now, we told you about the light last week. All you needed is a standard shop light with standard T12 fluorescent 40-watt bulbs. You don't need the grow lights. Some people have asked me if the plants grow spindly without grow lights. These plants were grown in my seed starter, and they're not spindly at all. These are geraniums. They're a special white-pink geranium that my wife likes. One other thing they need is heat, but you don't need a heat mat. The fact is that in my area, in Saratoga Springs, Utah, the temperatures get down into the teens in the winter, but in about February and March it gets up to about 40 degrees. Our unheated basement and unheated garage is typically 40 degrees, and by putting these plants under these lights, the lights give off enough heat to bring that temperature up to 65 to 68 degrees, which is almost ideal for planting most seedlings. In fact, some seedlings, like beans, may not germinate if it's over 75 degrees. Now, there are some, like peppers, that may want a little more, and if you want to get into that, you can get a small heat mat, but you don't need a heat mat for the whole thing, just for one tray. So we've covered just about everything except watering. The one downside with any of these is you can water them from the top or water them from the bottom, but it's very hard to make sure you're not overwatering and not underwatering. And next time I'm going to show you a foolproof, perfect way that's almost dirt cheap to water perfectly every time, and you only have to water about once every 3 days. So if you like this video, then please subscribe or like on Facebook or YouTube. Tune in next time for our do-it-yourself watering system. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email at MacGyversGarden@gmail.com. And thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. And may all your weeds be wildflowers.